All right, guys, time for another fragrance review today. I'm gonna do Nasomatto's Baraonda, however you say it. I forgot to add this in my top fall fragrance reviews, so I guess I'll give it some love and do a picture review of it now. And I think Nasomatto fragrances are also interesting, maybe from a kind of psychological or social standpoint in FragCom, because one of the sort of Pokemon collector gotta smell them all kind of things is have you smelled Black Afghano, especially when I got into fragrances, because it was supposedly, if you hear listen to like bass notes, YouTube, for Granica, whatever, it's so out there, it's so crazy. But even in my short time frame of being in fragrances, by the time I smelled Black Afghano, it was really just kind of like, Pokemon collector, gotta smell them all. I wasn't like, is this really that out there compared to all this other stuff? It's like, it's just kind of whatever, right? And I think that's interesting when you think about a hobby like fragrances, especially when you think about so many people are only into fragrances for compliments and not actually for smelling it themselves. That I think you can definitely potentially lose what you're going for. Like maybe you can't appreciate a fragrance the same way that someone else could because you've smelled so much stuff. It might not be as out there to you anymore. But anyway, Baronda, what do I think it smells like? I don't think it smells like this, but a story that I would have you imagine is imagine someone's wearing pure malt, right? He's good with the ladies, whatever, blah, 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 blah. He goes home, he takes home these ladies, and his dad is there, or his older brother. The older brother or the dad would be wearing Baronda, right? Maybe these girls have daddy issues, right? Maybe this is your stepdad, so there's no bro code. It's not your older brother, it's not your real dad. It's your stepbrother, so there's no bro code. He can do whatever he wants, I guess, right? So, pure malt dude, he's with these girls, right? And then at night, when pure malt falls asleep, you open up the window, and there is a bit of novelty to this that I think is fun too, because there is a bit of that fall and autumn kind of smell to this, right? So they open up the window and they see the daddy out there, right? And they see that campfire, and the campfire smoke kind of brings them in. And then they go to the guy, they go outside, and they're like, hey, can I have a drink too? What are you drinking, right? And so the Baronda guy, what he does is he goes into first of all, what did he light this campfire with? He lit the campfire with some whiskey. He threw in some apple cider, apples, whatever it might be, amber, vanilla, whatever, and it sparked the fire, right? And so then to make a mug for these girls to drink out of, he puts his hand in the fire and he pulls out this wooden campfire autumn kind of mug, right? It's a little bit charred. It is rough. It's definitely a vibe. And the mug has a sort of caramelized, glaze on it, a caramelized crust. It has some amber on it, vanilla on it. There's also even a little bit of sparkle because each time when he pulled out the wooden mug, when you hear those little embers crackling from the fire, maybe there's just a little bit of a sparkle from the cider or the apple, whatever kind of apple crispness is just sparkling still in that wooden mug. And then he gives the girls the mug, and in that sort of autumn smell, fall smell, he does daddy things to these girls that have huge daddy issues, right? That's what I think about this, right? So it doesn't smell like pure malt, but it's definitely a vibe. It's definitely a little bit rough. It's potentially a little bit out there, but it's kind of like the daddy version of pure malt for me, right? Imagine taking your hand in that campfire, making a wooden mug out of it, putting the whiskey back in it that you just lit the fire with in the first place. The mug is sort of caramelized, crusted, you know, with sweetness, amber, vanilla, caramel, a little bit of apple sparkle from the ember on the mug, and yeah, with that autumn salt, that's what I kind of think of. Again, I kind of like vibe fragrances like this. I do think it is potentially pretty rough. Like, if you don't like some of these fragrances like I do, although it's eased up just a little bit because there is that novelty vibe. So it's not totally out there and rough because I think you can appreciate a bit of the novelty fall and autumn vibe with it, but definitely a little bit out there. I mean, if you can't wear things like Tuscan leather, if you're one of those people that you think Tuscan leather is too much, even tobacco, vanilla, whatever these might be, right? This fragrance is probably way too out there for you. But I think it's more out there potentially than something like, Straight to Heaven as well. But I don't think it's out there to the point that it's like offensive or weird or anything like that. I do think you could wear it if the vibe is correct. Performance on me is fine. I can't tell you too much about compliments on it because I've never had enough to really accurately judge compliments, but I can say just because I've compared vibe fragrances before, for what it's worth as well, even if since I mentioned Tuscan leather could be a thing where when I've done those sort of taste testing with girls, and what do you think of this when you just have them smell stuff? Tuscan leather isn't really a thing that just offhand a lot of girls have told me they've liked. But in real life, when your vibe is good, I actually have gotten compliments on Tuscan leather. So again, I can't tell you a lot about Barona because I just have never worn it that much in public because I've never had that much because it is admittedly expensive. But that is something to keep in mind with vibe fragrances because this definitely is a vibe fragrance, I think. And so you got to be in that sort of perspective. Anyway, that's Mona's Brenda. Remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, comment, leave a silly comment at the end. Thanks.